Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my special edition tour of Starbase at Boca Chica, Texas. I went down there recently on a little bit of a break from covering Giga Texas, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And I thought I would try to do some images and some video and kind of take you along with my tour. And I wanted to do something a little bit different than what you see on most channels. I wanted to give you a little bit more in-depth, kind of a walk-around tour, starting from the entry into the production area, through the production area, and then out to the launch area. And I was fortunate to be joined by some of my family members, two of my sisters, Sue and Bev, my brother-in-law Ed, and then of course their little puppy Kiki. And we all had a great time touring and seeing all the sights out at Starbase. And I'm very glad to take you along for the tour with us. Before we begin, I would like to say thank you to my patrons for your generous support. Patreon members get access to high-resolution photos, previews, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron using this link, which is also in the video description. Please also consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Thanks.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to Boca Chica. This is where Starbase is located. And this road right behind me, this is Boca Chica Boulevard. It goes off to Brownsville in that direction. And of course, behind me takes you to the production facility. And also you can possibly see the launch pad in the background as well. But if you were to come in to visit the Starbase, this is the road that you would come in. And this is the first view that you would have. And what we'll do is we'll get a little bit closer and we'll take a look at some of the other sites and kind of show you around the Starbase area, and then we'll head out to the launch facility as well. And because I don't know when I'm going to come back, I'm taking the opportunity to wear all of my Starbase and Starship and SpaceX kind of clothes, so you'll probably see me changing shirts from this time, and you'll see a bunch of other ones. So just trying to get all that in before I head back to San Antonio and then get back to Giga Texas. So here we are a little bit closer to the production facility. You can see that on the right, and off to the left in the distance is the launch facility. And over here on the right, what you can see is a little bit of SN-15 and SN-16. 15 is the rocket, the Starship that was able to do the launch, the belly flop, and the landing successfully. And SN-16 was one that was to be used afterwards, but after that successful landing, they moved on to SN-20, which is what you'll see out at the launch platform. But this is also where they build the boosters and the Starships and a variety of other parts. We'll get a little bit closer and we'll take a look at that as well. And this is the Starbase sign right behind me, and this was put in maybe about 8 months ago or so, but it's really the first thing that you're going to see when you come out to the main production facility. And also behind me you can see two of the Starships. One's SN-15 and one is SN-16 as well. And then of course all the production that's going on behind us as well. So here we are just a little bit closer to the Starbase sign, and for me it's pretty exciting because I've always seen this on all the other channels, but I finally get a chance to see it. And you can see all the letters and how big they are, and just what it's kind of this entry area looks like. And again, this is what you would see when you first arrive at Starbase.
From the sign, looking towards the production facility, you'll see the high bay coming into view here, the mid bay, and also you'll see Boca Chica Boulevard or Highway 4 that leads to the launch facility, which you can see in the distance.
So we're going to continue on and we're going to see some of the other sites a little bit closer into the production facility, and maybe we'll see some boosters or Starships under construction. I'm now over the area where they have both SN-15 on my right and SN-16 on my left, also known as Ship 16. SN-15 is the first Starship prototype to launch, get to about 10-kilometer apogee, do its belly flop maneuver, come back down, and then do the flip maneuver back to vertical and then land successfully. And that was done earlier this year in 2021. And SN-16 or Ship 16 was almost completed at the time of that launch, and it was intended to be used in case SN-15 did not land properly, and that way they were ready to go again. But after SN-15 landed safely, they decided to basically put SN-16 on mothballs. There was a a little bit of talk about maybe using it for a high altitude supersonic test, but that never really came to pass. And instead, they started putting a lot of their efforts into the launch pad preparation with the tower, the orbital launch platform, the GSE equipment for the tanks, and all the plumbing to be able to support an orbital launch test program. And SN-20, or Ship 20, is now out at the launch platform along with the booster that will be needed for them to do that first orbital flight. But this here is the history-making SN-15 right off here onto the right. And again, it did its successful launch and landing. And I can tell you from in person, they are a lot larger than you would think. Just by the pictures, it's actually quite impressive. What's also impressive is just how close you can get to this area to see them up close. It's pretty nice. Remedios Avenue is this street right behind me, and you can access Boca Chica Boulevard directly from that, and you're able to come in and at least get close enough to take a look at the ships.
This is a little clip that gives you an idea of what this area looks like at the end of Remedios Boulevard. And here's a look at how the two ships look next to each other with the test stand in between. And as you can see, it's a pretty busy road. A lot of equipment comes by, so make sure you're very careful when you're in this area. Looking into this area here, this is where the liquid nitrogen and liquid oxygen production facility will be. This will give SpaceX the opportunity to make their own fuel and oxidizer.
So here we are just a little bit closer to SN-16 here on the left, SN-15 to the right, and in between is the nose cone testing rig that they were using to test the structural integrity of the actual nose cones to kind of simulate max Q, which is the maximum dynamic pressure as the Starship accelerates through the atmosphere. And that's where the most stress of the aircraft or the Starship takes place. So they were testing to make sure that the structural integrity would be enough, at least for the initial tests.
This video shows you just a little bit more of the area that I'm standing next to the Starships. What you see here is the liquid oxygen and nitrogen production facility, and then where some of the support equipment and test equipment is located next to the two Starship prototypes. And when you're standing next to the Starship prototypes at this distance, the most impressive thing is just seeing the size and the scope, and just trying to look up and crane your neck to see the entire Starships when you're this close. It's amazing. They just seem to reach to the sky. But it also just gives you a greater appreciation when you see the launches for the prototypes and then the landings. Just how amazing it is for these Starships to function and just think about the future. It's just impressive. So here we're looking a little bit more towards the right of where the Starships are located, and this is the storage area for stainless steel, and also where they dismantle parts of the Starships that are no longer needed, or parts that they don't need as well. This structure that they're building is the new wide bay. It's the new production facility, so they can build prototypes and ultimately the final products, and it will be twice as wide and as tall as the high bay that you see here in the picture. The aluminum or the stainless steel looking trailers that in the picture here, this is where Starship and Starbase employees hang out and stay while they're working. This way they don't have to do all the travel back to Brownsville, which is about 30 miles away.
Well, now I'm out at the production facility, and directly behind me is what's called Stargate. And this is where they have the control command and control section for the operations out at the launch pad. And it's obviously named Stargate after the TV show Stargate. They use a lot of those references throughout all of SpaceX, which is one of the things that makes it really cool. And then as I move back over this way, what you can see behind me is the high bay. And inside the high bay right now is booster 5. That's the fifth booster. Probably the second one to go up to orbit. It'll be following the booster 4 and ship 20 that's out at the launch pad right now. And it's actually almost completed. It's fully stacked, and I think they're just doing some last minute final assembly of it. And then they're going to move on to booster 6, which is already partially assembled. And there's also some parts for booster 7. And if we look at this way here, you can also see more of the wide bay that's under construction behind me. And this is the new structure that's twice as big, and it's going to be a little bit taller than the high bay, give them a lot more of that space to continue to build the boosters at full stack and also be able to do the Starships at full stack as well. Speaking of that, behind me, you should be able to start seeing some of the stainless steel parts. These are the various components. They're called ring sections that make up both the Starship and the booster. They were also used to make some of the ground support equipment tanks that you'll see down at the launch site a little bit later. And then if we move over this way, you'll see behind me is the mid bay. It's a little bit smaller or shorter building. And inside that, Ship 21 is under construction right now, and it's nearly finished. A little bit later, we'll show you the nose cone section that's being put together, and then they will mate those together in the high bay. And if we continue a little bit further this way, behind me, what you'll see is some of the tent-like structures. And these tent structures are where they put together the nose cones, some of the ring sections. They have some of the various shops that they need to put all the parts together. So pretty much this entire area behind me, this production area, makes all of the parts necessary for the Starship. Now, some of the parts like the downcomer pipes and some of the other internal fittings are made off-site. So are the grid fins that go onto the booster, the actual flaperons, if you will, that goes onto the Starship. Those are made off-site and brought out here. But they're all mated together in this area. And again, this is where the production is done for all the Starship prototypes. And eventually, this is where all of the Starships will be built.
So here's a quick look around the area, around the production area. Here's the NASA Spaceflight.com truck. This is where they have the cameras that track what's going on at the production site. And if you look at their channel, you'll see quite a bit of the footage. It's always excellent coverage that they do. But here's where the Stargate facility is located, where they do the command and control for the tests and the operations out at the launch platform. And you can see here the high bay. Inside the high bay right now is Booster 5, and right behind it you can see where they're constructing the new wide bay. And again, that's that area that's going to be twice as wide, twice the size, and about the same height, so they can do more of the production. You can see some of the stainless steel ring sections for future Starships and boosters. Here's the mid bay, and then the tent structures are what they use to do construction of various parts, as we've discussed before. And then, of course, Boca Chica Boulevard heading off to the launch facility. And then we're just heading back here looking at the mid-bay again. This is tall enough for the Starship itself without the nose cone stacked. But when they do that stack, they move it over here to the high bay. And by doing the boosters and the high bay and the Starship, it kind of takes all that space that's in the high bay, so that's why they're doing the wide bay. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how this is located, where everything is in relation to where the Starship prototypes are, and then headed down to the launch platform. You can also see that this is a very busy road. You generally park on this side of the road and then look across into the production area. I would just recommend, if you go here, be very careful because of the high traffic flow. But with these zoomed in pictures, this gives you a pretty good idea of how close in you can see the ring sections, the nose cones, and some of the other operations that are going on. It's just incredible to see a live production facility making rockets that have the potential of really changing the world into the future. And I'm really hoping that the work that they're doing here turns out to be very successful, and that they are able to achieve all their goals. Again, this close-up here shows the steel structure being raised for the new wide bay area. Once this is complete, this should help them with the production of the Starships and hopefully meet their production goals.
Before we leave the production site, there is something else I want to show you that is relatively new. And right behind me, right about here, you can see a nose cone. And it's not just a normal nose cone. This is the first of the new generation of nose cones. The difference is, as you can see, there's vertical pieces of stainless steel that are the length of the nose cone itself. And that means that there's less parts, less welding, less weight, and less complexity for this version of the nose cone. The last time this was actually seen was when Tim Dodd from Everyday Astronaut was inside filming with Elon Musk, and they were showing that this in prototype form. Now that it's outside, it suggests that it's complete, and it's being ready for a future Starship potentially. Maybe SN or ship 22 or 23. We'll have to see. But we're going to head down now and take a look at ship 21's stacked nose cone, and it also has some of the thermal shields on it as well.
We moved a little bit further east to see the ship 21's nose cone. You can see it stacked here with the thermal tiles, and it's right next to the windbreak area.
So now we're out at the SpaceX ground tracking radar station. There's two of the antennas behind me. They can swivel 360 degrees in a horizontal plane, and they can also do 180 degrees in azimuth up into the air. And they use these to track some of the Falcon 9s and the Dragon capsules, but they also use this during testing of the Starship. And what they'll do is they'll rotate these out and point them off in this direction towards the launching platform area. And I also want to give you an idea where this is located in relation to the production facility. So as I walk around this way, you should start seeing the production facility starting to come into view right about now. And you can see, again, the high bay, the mid bay, the production area where we were looking at the nose cone for ship 21 as well, and just the whole area. So you come down Boca Chica Road, which is right off here at my right. You can come down to the ground tracking station, and then if you continue on, you go down to the launching platform area, and that's where we're going to go next. So we've now traveled about a mile from the production facility towards the launch facility, and you can see it behind me. You can see the launch tower, you can see ship 20, you can see the remnants of booster 3, and also you can see booster 4 stacked up. Also, a lot of work going on the infrastructure for the orbital launch facility as well. And we're going to get a little bit closer shots of that in just a few minutes. But again, if you're coming down Boca Chica Boulevard from the production facility, this is what you would see as you're approaching the launch area.
I thought I would take a moment and look around this area where I filmed the discussion about the launch area, just to give you a better idea of what it would be like if you were out here. Obviously, right now we're looking at the launch and testing area, but if you look farther to the south towards the Mexican border, you can see this large plain area and also this kind of tidal basin, which is used sometimes for some spectacular sunrise shots. But if we look back over towards the launch and testing area, we can continue and we'll pick up Boca Chica Boulevard, also known as Highway 4. And this highway leads you to not only the launch area, but a little bit beyond that goes directly to the beach. It's very close, and we'll look at that in a moment. But if we look back towards the north and then west, you'll get an idea of where this is located in relation to the production area that we were just at and talking about what was going on over there. So again, this is the road that leads from the production area to the launch area.
So now we're out at the orbital launch facility, and this is located really close to the beach. Actually, it's a very scenic area, and I'll try to get another video of that so you can see how close to the beach it is. But anyway, behind me you see the launch tower, the orbital launch platform below it. It's kind of a circular donut kind of shaped platform that the booster and the Starship would be sitting on. You also see the chopsticks, if you will. They're kind of low down right now, but those are designed to catch both the booster and eventually the Starship. And then above that is the quick disconnect arm, and that's where they both stabilize the stacked booster and Starship, and also they put the propellant into the Starship when it is stacked. And of course the orbital platform is also where they would put the propellant in for the booster as well. And next to that you can see the Starship 20 itself with the black tiles. And next to that is the actual booster that will be used to try to do the first orbital launch. And then next to that too, you see these large tanks. Those are the ground support equipment tanks. That's what holds the liquid oxygen, the methane, some nitrogen, and also there's a water tank too. And most of the speculation is that that water tank will be used as a water deluge system. So when the booster ignites and is getting ready to launch, they'll use that for both sound suppression and also for protection of the ground infrastructure as well. So now we're out on the beach area, a little bit farther towards the water than we were in the earlier shot. And of course you can see the launch facility behind me, the tower and the GSE tanks and the booster 4 and even the tip of the Starship. What I want to try to do is show you here just how close this is to the actual beach. And as you can see, the beach is right behind me. You can kind of see the water coming in, and if you were out here at Boca Chica on the beach, you could get a good tan, you can get some surf, and you can also be this close and see the launch facility as well. It's actually quite spectacular, the views and the closest to the beach that the launch facility is. And I'm not too sure if most people get a chance to see this when they're looking at other channels and other views of the area, because they tend to focus right at that launch facility. But I hope that this little view here kind of gives you an idea of just how close to the beach this really is, and just some really great things to see while you're here. I thought I would do a real quick shot here just to show you that you can actually drive your car right out onto the beach area and be able to see right behind me the orbital launch platform and the area where they're doing all the testing. And again, some people may not realize just how close to the beach we really are, but this is as close as you can get. You can even drive your car out here. So this is a little bit of a view that I haven't seen before, but I thought I would show you. And that again, the closeness to the launch facility and the main road that gets here. And as you can kind of see behind me, I'm right on the road, and you can kind of get an idea of what the launch facility might look like. And the direction I was at was towards the production facility. And of course this here is the area where the GSE tanks are, the launch mount. And right behind me, the road goes to the beach. And again, this is how close it is. If you were to come out here to see the site, it's a good place to stop. It's pretty much the only stopping point. But although you can see quite a bit, this is the parking that's right behind me, and it's kind of limited. It's sort of up on the berm, and again, it's right on the shoulder of the road. So if you do come out here, be very careful where you park and where you walk, because there are cars and a lot of machinery coming and going on this road. So right behind me, you see the GSE, or ground support equipment tanks, and there are 8 of them. One of them contains water. 2 of them contain liquid oxygen, 2 of them contain liquid nitrogen, and 3 of them are liquid methane. And those are the materials necessary for the Starship to operate. The methane and the oxygen are the fuel and oxidizer system. The water is used for the water inundation system for the launch on the tower. At least that's what we think right now. And then the nitrogen is used for testing and also for purging of lines. And the design of these are quite interesting. They have 2 tanks, an inner and an outer tank. The inner tank is made exactly the same as the Starships, uses the same materials. It's a 9-meter diameter tube, if you will. And that was made over at the launch, the production facility, and then brought out here at the launch facility and installed. And then the containers on top of them, the protective containers, if you will, were made at 12-meter diameter, so that they fit over that. And then inside, they fill it with a material that provides insulation. And then they can fill up with the cryogenic fluids. And it's quite interesting to see how they build that. There's quite a bit of piping that's still being installed, and they're still doing some of the testing of the tanks themselves. And then if we come over a little bit this way, you can see some more of the tanks here for the liquid methane, and of course the launch tower with the chopsticks. And I'll try to give you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like here looking up. It's really hard to get the entire tower into the site because of its height, but you can see there the quick disconnect arm, and that will be used to put some of the fuel and oxidizer into the system, and also to stabilize it as well. And then, of course, the chopstick arms to catch it behind me. Also, a little bit more to the my left here. This is a berm that they had installed. I think initially they were thinking that they might be using that for some of the landing tests because the landing pad is just a little bit to the left of that. But now they're dismantling it, and I think it's because they've just changed their plans and they're going to go for the catch of both the Starship and the booster at some point in the future. So here we're just a little bit closer to the GSE tanks and a lot of the pipework and conduit necessary to make the entire system function. I thought I would just give you a close look at what this looks like here, and you can kind of see how high it is. Sorry about the sun. And of course, if we go over this way, you can see the launch tower as well. And again, everything here is pretty close together. It's kind of surprising if you come out to the site. And we're really on the side of the road. This road right to this direction goes to the beach that you've seen, and then to this direction goes to the production facility about 2 miles or so away, and that's on the direction towards Brownsville as well. So here's a common sight that people see around the launch facility, and that is the hopper. This is the first rocket, if you will, that was launched out of here. It was a test about 2 years or so ago. And it tested not only the basic design of the Starship itself, but also the Raptor and its performance. And it flew right here. It flew a couple times up to about 150 meters or so, and successfully landed. And it's kind of become the indestructible hopper because it's seen other Starship launches and some not so good landings, and it survived through all of them. Right now, they use it for some other purposes. They use it, I think, as a little bit of a water tank. Up on the top, as you see here, they have some anemometers for some of the winds and weather. They also put a lot of the cameras on it as well to do the tracking of the Starship launches and watch some of the activities going on with the static fires and so forth. But anyway, Starship started with this here with the hopper, and it's a lot bigger in person than it looks in pictures, and it's pretty cool. So here we are again at the launch facility with the hopper behind me. We just talked about that a little bit earlier. And then also behind me right here, you can see the remnants of Booster 3. It was one of the test articles. They did some static fires with it, but then when that was completed, they've started to disassemble it a little bit. It's still out on the orbital pad A, waiting for further disassembly, but for right now, it's just staying out here at the site. Next to it here is the Ship 20. This is the ship that has the thermal tiles, as you see with the black, the tiles on this side. The other side is the stainless steel, sort of the leeward side. And this is the rocket that's going to be attempted to go into the orbit test, possibly at the beginning of the year, maybe 2022 January, maybe February, we'll see. The biggest obstacles are they are working on the infrastructure for the launch area, so that would include the towers, the ground support equipment, the pipes, that sort of thing. They also need to finish the testing of the Starship itself and the booster and complete the static fires and fitting test and get it back up onto the orbital launch pad and so forth. And then the FAA approval for the launch, and that's hopefully going to be happening at the end of this year. 31st of December is when the FAA said that they would try to get the word out. So here's another thing I'd like to show you is right here. This is a test tank, and they use this test tank for pressure tests and also for testing the type of steel. They've been trying to use a little bit thinner of the stainless steel to reduce the overall mass of the Starship, and I believe that this one here may be testing some of that steel. Also, behind it here, this is Booster 4. This booster is the one that's going to be carrying the Starship on the orbital test for the first time. At least that's what the plan is now. And in future iterations, they'll try to catch it with the launch tower. But for right now, for the first test, it'll be landing about 20 kilometers off into the Gulf of Mexico, which is right down this part of the street and where that beach is that I showed you earlier. SpaceX's new crane that they just purchased, and as you can see with the paint job and everything, they actually own this one. They're not renting like they have been with many of the other ones. The other thing that's pretty noticeable now is that this is the only large crane out at the site right now. There are many smaller cranes and man lifts, but in the last several weeks and months as they've been building the orbital launch tower, there were many more of these cranes out here. In fact, one of them was much taller than even this one. And then over here, in addition to the test tank here, which is a kind of a hybrid between the top part of a booster and the bottom part of a Starship with the common dome, I think they're using this for testing materials, possibly for some pressure and some other tests. But right behind me is the orbital launch tower itself, and this is still under construction now. Right coming out of it is what they call the chopsticks. These are the arms that will, in the future, catch the booster, possibly catch the Starship itself. It'll be able to reorient it once it's in the arms, and then it will move it or pivot to put it back onto the orbital launch table, which is right here. And the orbital launch table is quite a sophisticated piece of equipment. Not only does it hold the booster and the stacked booster Starship, but it also allows for the fueling, and it also has some of the pneumatic systems necessary to start the Raptor engines, at least the 20 on the outside of the booster itself, because these will be used just for the initial launch, but then they won't be relit. The center 9 or possibly 12 after that would be reignitable in flight, and they'll be using that for repositioning and not for landing. But those have their own COPVs, which is the composite overwrapped pressure vessels, which have the pressure necessary to turn the turbines and get that started. But anyway, these areas that I'm showing you here are pretty neat, and this is the orbital launch facility area.
I thought I would show you this clip of the activity around the area while I was there, just to get a flavor for what all is going on. You see trucks are entering the site constantly, bringing materials. There's work on the Starship and the booster with these man lifts, preparing for some operational testing coming up in the near future. Same with the test tank. Some of the cranes getting ready for some other construction. Of course, work going on the launch tower, the chopsticks, the quick disconnect, and also the orbital launch table as well.
As you can see, this is a very busy place, and as you compare it to Giga Texas, there's a lot of similarities with a lot of the trucks, the deliveries, the contractors, and just the activity. But both of them are incredible, but I would say that SpaceX kind of has even Giga Texas beat when it comes to the amount of work that they're doing in a short period of time. This place is a beehive of activity. There's always something going on out here, and it's just incredible to see, and it's very inspiring as well.
Well, that wraps up the tour of Starbase that I did in the last couple of days. And I hope that you enjoyed seeing the videos, some of the information, looking around the site, and hopefully seeing it in a way that you haven't seen before. There's a lot of great channels that do a lot of coverage of the Starbase, the Starships, the testing, and the activities there. But I hope that this video gave you a little bit of appreciation for the area, where everything is located, and just the relationship between the production facility area and the launch facility area. If you have the chance to come to Starbase, I highly recommend you do so. Seeing everything in person is simply awesome, and it's just really difficult to convey just how amazing everything is in person. So I highly recommend you make a trip. So I hope that you enjoyed this video of Starbase, and we'll be back to Giga Texas soon. I'd like to take this moment just to say thank you again to all of my Patreons listed here and both of these slides. You help me make these videos possible. It really inspires me, and I really do appreciate all of your support. Thank you very much.